What would every single Godzilla monster look like if you put them into a game of Pokemon? Well, I decided to answer that question. Based on the information in the movies and comics, I gave every single kaiju typing, stats, abilities, and a move pool that fits their character. Let's go through each creation, starting from lowest total stats to highest. Also, make sure to comment what your team of 6 would be. Now to start off, there's a few things that I want to point out. Underneath the creature's name, we have their typing. We have to the left a moveset, which is essentially a list of 4 moves that I think both encapsulates sort of their design and offers them sort of their best moveset. Then below that we have abilities. Now they can have 1 to 3 abilities, and if they have 3, this includes a hidden ability. Finally, on the right side is an example of their stats, which I'll go over in detail. Got it? Great. Let's begin with our weakest monster, Manila. This is Manila. Manila is a joke Godzilla monster. He is weak at everything. Don't be like him. Next up, we have the Mecha. See, the Mecha Kin isn't actually a monster, however, it's sort of a long-standing part of Godzilla movies. I also included it simply because there aren't many ice types. There's actually only one other, which I'll get to later. So I wanted a little bit more typing diversity, so I threw it in, and maybe we can just put some googly eyes on it or something. Next up, we have Ghidorah. Ghidorah is another jokey monster, so don't really look at his artwork. I don't know why his artwork looks so good. He's not like that. Normal and electric, because he does show sort of electric abilities, but it's very weak. I gave him some static, unnerved, because he creeps me out a little bit, and thick fat, because he's kind of a fatty. Next up is Varane. Varane's a cool monster. He's sort of a flying reptilian who has wings that are connected like a glide suit. And so I made him normal in flying. He has good speed, decent attack and special attack, but not much else going on. Next up, we have Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus is sort of in the same vein as Varane, where he's kind of a lesser known monster. He's basically just a dinosaur, and I could have made him a dragon type, so I know it's a little bit potentially controversial, but overall I just wanted to make him a normal. You probably meet him early on in the game, so you don't want to just get a dragon straight off the bat. This brings us to our bug boys, starting with Kumonga. Kumonga and its partner Kamakura, or however you say it, have equal stats, same with Varane and Gorosaurus, so they're kind of tied to each other. It has a lot of abilities that sort of tap into that speed: Limber, Quick Feet, and then Sap Sipper, which I didn't know this, but apparently spiders do actually sip sap, certain species, so fun fact. Next up, we have Kamakura, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. This one has good attack, great speed, and also pretty solid special defense, but frail with everything else. Now we have Muto in its male form, and you're going to notice there's going to be a lot of bugs and also 3 different Muto evolutions. These 3 evolutions are based off what the gender of the Pokemon is when it hatches. If it's a male, which is going to be a 40% chance, that's going to be Muto male, which can fly. If it is a female, it's going to be Muto female, which is a much larger, more powerful monster. And then finally, there is a 10% chance that it is neither male or female, which will make it Muto Prime, the strongest form of the 3. Speaking of Muto male, it just has the ability to levitate because I need it to fly, and it just has some normal bug and dark type moves with a flying move just thrown in there. This brings us to Manda, who is just essentially a dragon serpent. I debated making Manda a water dragon, but decided to hold off because we have another water dragon, which I'll let you guys see later. Manda has good speed, special attack, and attack, very focused on offense, while not so focused on defense. However, to counteract the fact that I did not give it water typing, I give it the ability Swift Swim, make it a lot faster, and then also some snake-like abilities and moves. This brings us to Baragon, which is a fairy and ground type. Baragon has some good defensive stats, some abilities that kind of hint at its sort of underdog nature, and then also one that boosts its evasion in sand. And then I just gave it some moves that sort of round out its typing with fairy and ground type, and then horn attack because he has a horn. Now we have Ibra. Ibra is a lobster. There's no way around it. Here we have Titanosaurus, whose roar actually scared me as a kid, even though it's just an elephant roar. But I did give him the move roar just to make up for that. Titanosaurus actually has a fan for a tail, so I decided to give him some flying type moves despite not actually being a flying. Nozuki. Nozuki is a much newer monster coming in the last Godzilla movie of Godzilla vs. Kong. It's very aggressive going after Kong, even to its detriment. I gave it good attack, good speed, not much else, and then it has abilities like no guard and sheer force to hammer home the point that this is an offense first monster. Picture Ghidorah essentially like Mechagodzilla's annoying stepbrother. Not much going for it besides that it's just a robot that isn't Mechagodzilla or Mecha King Ghidorah. This is Megalon. Megalon is a bug ground type. It's one of the ones that kind of can be more than two types. It could also be steel because of its drills and horns, but at the end of the day, it has to be just two. Its abilities are two bug common abilities in tinted lens and compound eyes, and then its third is simple because in the movie, Megalon really comes off as not very intelligent of a creature, and I kind of wanted to give it a benefit from that simplistic nature. Behemoth. Now we're starting to get into some of these more powerful Pokemon. Behemoth was a tough choice, and I didn't really know what to type it, because as you'll see with its next two, Methuselah and Cilla, which are all part of the new trilogy of Godzilla movies, they all are two-typed, and they all have actually equal stats across the board. Behemoth doesn't really have much in terms of abilities in the movie, so most likely it'd just be normal, but I needed to throw on another type there to balance it. So I gave it Ice, because there's not a lot of ice, and also because it's a mammoth, also sloth. Next up in our trilogy of new monsters is Methuselah, who is a rock and grass type. Its moveset is based on just power, and so is its abilities, which are focused on its rock type. Cilla is a water and psychic type. It's a interesting Pokemon because it has great special attack, defense, and attack. Its abilities sort of hint at its psychic nature, and its moveset complements that. We take it back from our very new monsters to a one that's almost 50 years old, with Hedorah. Hedorah is a pure poison type with a interesting stat spread. Its abilities focus on using poison to its advantage, along with its moveset, which is all about poisoning the target and then punishing them for it. This one is going to be a controversial typing. Shinumuro is actually a colony of different tiny insects that essentially combine to be one giant monster. So obviously I gave it bug, but then the ghost is essentially because it's not really living, the creature itself. It's just the little insects making it up, which I know it's a stretch, but I just want to make it ghost bug. I thought it looked cool, and it also fits sort of its color scheme. We now return to the Mutos with the female form of the Muto, which, as I mentioned before, is a much more bulky option to its male counterpart. It has the ability Lightning Rod, which you might notice, and this is because in the movies, the Mutos actually use EMP blasts to knock out any electronics in the area, and actually weaken Godzilla's beam attack. Its moveset offers to its bug and powerful nature, and then its hidden ability is Moody, because in the movie, the Muto female actually starts to cry when its eggs are burned, and I kind of like giving it sort of that emotional power. Here is Jet Jagger, a steel and fighting type. Jet Jagger is a very interesting monster because it has great defense, attack, and speed despite its steel nature, and its focus is all about punching, which is why I gave it two different fist abilities and then also Scrappy, which I didn't know this, but it's one of the many abilities that actually eliminates Intimidate. I didn't know. And as you can see, its moveset's all focused about punching. King Caesar, a rock fighting type. King Caesar in the movies is actually a golem made by humans to protect them, and because of this I gave it low HP because it's made of human materials, but I give it really good attack. It's sort of like a kung fu master, and then you'll notice his abilities. The main one I want to focus on is Mirror Armor, and then also Mirror Coat. This is because in the movie Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, he actually is able to reflect a beam attack from Mechagodzilla and shoot it back at him. Megaguirus isn't the most inspired monster here, just a flying bug. I just made it really fast because the movie's really fast, but not too much to say about this one. Anguirus, actually the third oldest monster on this list after Godzilla and King Kong's fun fact. Anguirus is a very bulky monster, and its abilities and moveset both lend itself to its spikes. These skull crawlers, dark and ground, a monster prevalent in Kong Skull Island. It's a brutal Pokemon, and it has Ruckless and Tough Claws to match that, including Spike given its sort of evil nature. It's fast and it's strong, but what you'll notice is it's actually one slower than Kong, who ends up defeating the monsters in the movie. And we're starting to get closer to the real heavy hitters with Geigen. Geigen is an iconic monster which I made dark and steel. It has a great mix attack abilities, and it also has the ability Prankster, because in the movies it's shown it's capable of using sort of anything in its arsenal. It has one point, it has chainsaw hands, and it has a chainsaw belly, and it shoots projectiles at Mothra. It just sort of has every trick up its sleeve, which lends itself to being able to use priority moves one step faster than an opponent's. Mothra's evil twin Batra. Batra has a little bit lower stats than its twin, and has the same HP, but it's a much more mixed attacker to its sibling. Its abilities focus on its bug nature, except for Skill Link, which is used to bolster its moveset with the moves Pin Missile and Bullet Seed making an appearance. It's time for everyone's favorite monkey, Kong. Kong has slightly lower stats than the starters, but is still a very powerful Pokemon in its own right. He's fast, he has good defense, good HP, and most of all, great attack. His moveset focuses on getting stronger, dealing with adversity, and landing killer blows. His main ability is Moxie, which makes each time he defeats an enemy, he gets stronger. Just like how you can imagine he, pounds on his chest when he gets a kill. Rounding out his ability set is Guts, which makes him even stronger when weakened in some way, and then Volt Absorb, because in the original Godzilla vs. King Kong, he actually absorbs lightning in one point for whatever reason, and it makes him stronger. It never happens again, but that one time it happened, so it's a nice little Easter egg ability. Biollante, a super cool, and I'll say it's super underrated monster. Biollante is a grass poison type with great HP and attack, and good special defense. It has two abilities that focus on the fact that it's a plant, with a third that really is killer of Merciless. Now this is a monster that you probably haven't heard of before with Camazotz, and that's because it actually only shows up in a comic book with King Kong. I made it a dark and flying type because it's an evil bat, so come on. And then also giving it soundproof and magician, hinting at its dark nature and also its ability to have powerful screeches. And we have finally made it to the elite of the elite, the heavy hitters here with Rodan. Rodan is one of the 3 starters in this made-up game, and because of that, its stats actually equal 535, because that's apparently like an average total for starters. This one is a mixed attacker with weak stats around it. With access to a special ability like Gale Wings, and then moves like Beak Blast, Sword Stance, Moonburst, and Flare Blitz, Rodan can actually be a sneaky contender for one of the higher tiers on the list. Our next starter is one of the most iconic Godzilla monsters in Mothra. Now, I know I said starter, and Mothra is a bug fairy, not a grass fairy. The reason for this is that there's only really 2 other grass types, which we've already seen with Methuselah and Biollante, and neither of those really feels like a starter. And as you'll see, Mothra actually works in a triangle better than a grass type would, which is why she makes an appearance here. Mothra's special ability is Queenly Majesty, which is just perfect. She's the queen of the monster, and it also negates Rodan's ability. The move I want to focus in on here is Pollen Puff, which is a powerful bug type move that actually also can heal an ally. Perfect for somebody who can dish out special damage like Mothra, but is actually shown to have healing properties in the movies. This brings us to our final starter, Godzilla, and you knew he was coming up eventually. Godzilla is a water dragon, which, as mentioned before, sort of completes a triangle where Godzilla can be super effective against Rodan, Rodan can be effective against Mothra, and then Mothra with her fairy type can be effective against Godzilla. Godzilla has great bulk all around, and then killer special attack with his beam. He has Hydro Pump, Hyper Beam, Dragon Tail at his disposal, and a actually really good ability for him is Tail Glow, despite being a bug. This one raises his special attack drastically, which is perfect for him, given that his tail will glow before he uses an attack. Finally, his hidden ability is Berserk, which, when he gets under half HP, his special attack will soar even higher, meaning he can just obliterate foes if you let him get the chance. As sort of an alternate starter to Godzilla is his counterpart Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla trades a little bit more speed and bulk for insane special attack. Its ability is Adaptability, which is based on the fact that in the movie, Shin Godzilla shows he is constantly evolving. To round out his moveset, Shin Godzilla trades the Hydro Pump for a Stab Fire Blast. We finally meet Muto Prime, which is essentially just Muto female, but a little bit more powered up. Space Godzilla. Space Godzilla is a monster that I love despite just being Godzilla with some crystals on him, and is one I really debate the typing on. I could see him being a dragon as well, I could also see him being dark, a lot of different potential combinations, but I settled on rocks given his crystals, and psychic given his telepathic nature that he has with these crystals. He gets the ability Psychic Surge, which is huge with his move pool, which uses Psychic, Cosmic Power, Meteor Beam, and Earth Power, given the fact that he comes from outer space. Now, Orga is a just heavy hitter. He's got great defense, attack, and HP. His abilities Intimidate and Mold Breaker just hint at his strength, and his last ability is Gluttony. Gluttony is actually because in the movie he tries to eat Godzilla at one point to take over his DNA. It obviously ends up being a horrible idea and he ends up dying, but it's pretty funny and I think it makes her a great ability. Brings us to Mechagodzilla, one of the top 5 Godzilla monsters in terms of popularity. Mechagodzilla has great defensive stats, but is very slow. Its abilities focus on its robotic nature, like Analytic, showing that it's capable of thinking, Bulletproof with its metal armor, and then Mega Launcher, because there's actually some forms of Mechagodzilla that shows a lot of additional firepower. And now we start the top 5 with one of my absolute favorite monsters of all time, the devil that has 3 heads, King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah is our pseudo-legendary in this game, so that means his stats equal a total of 600. Ghidorah has great attack, great special attack, and then great bulk all around the board. He's faster than Godzilla, makes him a huge threat. Now, you look at his abilities, he has 3 great abilities to choose from. He can use Galvanize to boost moves like Hyper Beam to insanely powerful levels by turning them from normal into electric. He has Regenerator because in one of the movies, he actually is shown to regrow his heads. And finally, he has Drizzle. Drizzle is his hidden ability, but is by far an insanely powerful one. In the movie Godzilla King of the Monsters, Ghidorah actually controls an entire hurricane around him wherever he goes. So, with Drizzle, Ghidorah will be able to hit Thunder all the time. He'll be able to hit Hurricane all the time. Waterfall would be boosted by 50%. Overall, Ghidorah would just be a terrifying monster to be on the battlefield. Next, we have Ghidorah's metal counterpart. How this would work in-game is that if you give Ghidorah's second evolution, a metal coat, and then trade it, then it will evolve into Mecha King Ghidorah. Mecha King Ghidorah essentially flip-flops Ghidorah's stats with much better defense and special defense, while not as good offensive stats and a little bit slower. Mecha King Ghidorah uses Download to learn its enemies and then use it to its advantage. As alternatives to its download ability, it has 2 abilities in Motor Drive and Magnet Pull that can make it scary to either steel or electric types depending on what you need. Finally, the move I want to point out here is King Shield, which fits in terms of name, in terms of type, and also will protect the monster while weakening the attacker of it. Monster X is sort of an interesting monster because it is actually Ghidorah in a different form, a little known secret. I hope I didn't spoil a movie from 18 years ago for you. I could have made it a dark and electric or dark and fighting. There's a lot of options to go with, but I made it electric fighting because I really like that sort of typing together. And I made it a very balanced monster with good overall stats across the board, more focused on offense. Now here we have finally our legendary monster of the game, Destroya. Destroya is a very interesting monster because it was created by the device that actually kills the original Godzilla, the Oxygen Destroyer. So I made it poison and flying. And why did I do that? Destroya shows to actually not even be able to be taken down by Godzilla in the movie, but instead the military, which is the Macer cannons. So I wanted it to be weak to ice while also being immune to dragon water. Finding there wasn't really anything that could meet both these specifications, I chose to go with Wonder Guard, which, yes, would be the most busted ability for a legendary of all time. But hey, I don't have to worry about balancing in this game, so I'm going to give him Wonder Guard anyway. His special defense is the big weakness here. If you can get somebody with an ice attack off on him, he's toast. Otherwise, you're gonna have a lot to deal with. Now we have a bonus monster. If you know who this is, you're probably a little bit scared right now, like I am. Red. Red is a terrifying monster to deal with. It's a ghost fire, and it is insanely powerful. Just don't let it catch you. That speed is slow, but if that thing touches you, you're done. And that will complete the video. If you made it all the way through to the end, looking at every single one, give yourself a round of applause. You did a good job. And again, remember to give your 6-team lineup in the comments below so we can compare, see who's got the best team, and if you want, give an explanation to why you think your team would be the best. That completes the video for today. Thank you so much everyone for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it and the effort I put into trying to, as best as I can, make each of these monsters realistic in Pokemon. I just hope to see you all in the next video. Until then, catch you on the flip.